You're listening to Seek Travel Ride, a podcast all about taking incredible bike adventures. And if you love the conversations that you hear on the podcast, you can experience them live. Join me in London on May 14 and 15 for Beyond the Bike. It's going to be a special night of adventure cycling stories, bike adventure film screenings, and a live Q&A with a panel of previous podcast guests. Tickets are on sale now. They will sell out fast. So make sure to grab yours at the link in the podcast show notes in your podcast player app. And now, let's listen to today's episode.
But then I went to Japan when I said goodbye to my job. And I decided to change my life in a way. And I went there for 3 months. So I bought a ticket in and out because you were allowed to stay for 3 months. And I loved it so much, I didn't want to come back. I truly was sorry to come back home. So when I bought the ticket to Philippines I needed the journey. It was supposed to last, maybe 2 or 3 years.
Welcome to Seek Travel Ride, where we share the stories and experiences of people taking amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hello listeners, I'm your host Bella Malloy and welcome to another episode of Seek Travel Ride. Now I want you to close your eyes and imagine setting off on a journey that lasts not just weeks or months, but years. Over a decade in fact. Well, our guest today is Polish adventurer Ewa Świderska, and she's been cycling the world over on various bike adventures for 11 years. Her travels have seen her cycling the routes of the historic Silk Road, to navigating extreme climates in Central Asia, the Middle East, China, as well as cycling throughout Southeast Asia and Europe. Ewa has all the while immersed herself in different cultures, landscapes and ways of life, all while pedaling her bike. There's a certain freedom which comes with long-term travel. It's often matched with a sense of curiosity to continue taking such expansive journeys and exploring the world. But there is generally another side of the coin, so to speak. While the experiences gained from bike travel are often overwhelmingly positive, I often wonder how it would be to be out on the road for such a long time. What impact does it have for relationships? How would I go with so much time spent in solitude, with just myself or strangers on the road for company along the way? Then there's the very real topic of, how would you afford to finance these trips? It's probably a question I actually get asked about over and over from listeners of the show, and while the response is different depending on each individual bike traveller, I'm keen to hear how Ewa has funded this long-term travelling lifestyle. I'm also eager to learn how she went from being a teacher in China to setting off on a life-changing adventure, her experiences cycling solo as a woman, and what over a decade of bike travel has taught her as we reflect on her experiences from leading out such an adventurous life. Ewa Świderska, welcome to the show.
Yes, hello. Good morning, everyone. It's morning where I am.
Yeah. Eva's done a really early interview slot, listeners. It's 8:30 for Ewa, and I'm so stoked that you are on board because, Ewa, when I was researching you, I was thinking, we're going to have some great stories in this session. And I have so many questions to ask you, but Ewa, the first question I have for you, and I start my show with, and I ask it of all my guests is, Ewa Świderska, do you remember the very first bike you ever rode?
Actually, yes. It was a, four-wheel bike I got as a child just to learn to cycle. And then I don't remember anything else. I was learning to cycle on my tiny road. And but then there was another bike I got for my first communion. It's when you are around 10 years old. On this one, I actually used until I was 20-something.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a very, very simple 3-gear bicycle, or maybe no-gear bicycle, probably no gear. Anyway, I had it until I was, 25, 26, and then, I decided that I cannot go on this one. I remember all my 4 bikes. There were just 4.
I want to know that bike that you had until you were 20-something, did you end up, was it a sort of thing that you would ride like commuting, like going from the shops to school to work to wherever? Like was that mainly what bike riding was for you growing up? Or did you always seek out going to new places on a bike, and had you done that since you were a kid as well?
No, actually, I wasn't cycling to school at the time. Then I used to cycle to work for many years, but not to school. But this one was actually an exploring bike. I used to go further and further on this one, exploring the area, going to the forests and just across the fields. That was the bike just the bike that gave me freedom, and just a feeling of adventure somehow. That was the one that I actually also took to go in places in Poland. So I took it on a train and then started exploring. Yeah, that was quite an unusual start, I would say.
So I guess bike travel's been something you've done. I mentioned in my intro you've been on bike adventures for 11 years, but really you've been bike adventuring for much longer than that.
Oh, yes.
Maybe not consecutively, but you've been bike adventuring for decades.
Yeah. Well, once as a teenager, more or less 12 years old, when I started really to go, as I said, in my area, around my small town in the central Poland. Yeah, it was on this bike, and I was very sorry to let it go. Like at some point, I decided, no, it cannot. When I bought the other one, like a little bit better one, finally, and it was only because my parents gave me half of the money. We weren't rich at all, but they knew that for me, bicycle just matters a lot. So they knew that there would be. My mother said, "I know how important it's to you, so this is the money, And that's why I bought a bigger wheel bicycle, but it wasn't anything like gravel, posh things that people have now. It was simply a little bit better, but very heavy. Actually, it was a very heavy bike.
It was maybe a bit more reliable.
Yeah, definitely. Like more long distance one, like big wheels, 28. The other one was 24 only. Not even 26, 24.
Can you remember where you took maybe your first like multi-day bike adventure? And maybe it was for weeks, maybe it was just for a weekend. Like, can you remember where you first went that wasn't just, for a few hours away from home and back, but actually further and further and things?
I do actually. Because I wasn't the youngest. I mean, not the youngest, so to say. I was 20 something when I bought the bigger bike, and I organized a week tour in the very beautiful area in Poland, the Mazurian lakes. And I organized it day by day. Yeah, so that was the one just going a little bit further, exploring more. And at the end of the day, I found out that it's really quite boring to have it organized. Because there were places I arrived like at 3 p.m. and what the hell I'm supposed to do? Like, okay, I have something to do, but I'm like keen on going, on pushing on.
Stuck on a schedule. I believe strongly ever there's two type of people in this world. There's people that love everything planned to almost the hour, to people who are free spirits who just love the flexibility of not even knowing where they'll be at the end of the day on a tour. So you are definitely the second type.
The second.
I am as well. Maybe you could agree with this. So I like, if I set off on a tour, and by all measures I've not set off on tours that have lasted years, but if I set on a tour that's maybe a month long, I like knowing where where I need to be by this time. And maybe there's a couple of places I need to be by a certain time, but how I do it and which roads I take, I haven't got figured out. How about you?
No, definitely the same. I know that I do so many twists in my plan, in my journey. Like I don't plan. And I actually heard from someone many years ago, and when we talked about it, I heard that, okay, so you're a traveler, because the travelers, they don't know where they will sleep. They start thinking about where they are going to sleep maybe 2 hours before the sunset. That was that was quite interesting, but that's the case. I start some kind of research usually 2 hours before the sunset, just more or less. And if I come across a good place, good spot, I would stay there. If not, I will go forever searching.
I'm sure with so many years on the road, you've probably had instances where you've gotten to a place set up and then maybe your gut instincts or the feel of it have changed. Have you had to move? Like you've set up and thought, oh, actually, no, I don't want to be here. And
oh, yes, definitely quite a few times. Yeah, it's even like around midnight and you are totally, you are super tired. Yeah, I had quite a few not really nice situations, but also like situations, real situations that somebody pops up is one thing, and then the other one is you're feeling your gut, that you definitely need to move, and well, that's not the nicest night then, but it's better to do it. Yeah,
And I think if you don't move,
you wouldn't sleep.
no, you wouldn't sleep, because it's something I want to ask you. A lot of people talk about the solo female thing, and there's people on two sides of the story on that. There's people who are like, oh, I don't want us to talk about it as a thing because it's not a thing. I'm doing it, and women can do it, and I don't disagree with that. And then there's women who, like, is the very real reality of, yes, we can do it, but we do it a bit differently and sometimes with a bit of fear. And I wanted to ask you, what about you with wild camping? Like, do you feel comfortable with wild camping now, or do you still, through your expertise built up over so many years of trusting your gut and knowing an instinct for about a place, or do you still have moments of, ooh, inside the tent? Or did you ever, like, has fear ever been something that you deal with?
Oh, definitely. Well, let's put it this way. I love wild camping. It's simply one of the main reasons, probably, of this kind of travel, because I can put my tent in places normally where I like. I don't like being on campsites usually, and especially in full season, because I like silence. So then, while doing this, you try to find a place that it's gonna be nice in the morning. Not necessarily the view, but just simply calm. Why I'm saying this is that I really put a lot of effort into finding proper places, but into hiding myself. I really want to point it out. It's all about hiding. And it doesn't matter that I'm over 50 now. It's simply for my safety. They say there is a school that tells you that either you really do it openly and the village or the people know that you are there because you ask them also. So you are totally, you just camp in somebody's garden, whatever, in the field, you ask and you can read, you can light the lamp. Otherwise, you hide and you don't use your lights and you simply, it's going to help you. You are a woman. I don't want to just spread this kind of fear, neither. Absolutely not. Either side, but when hearing that it's the same to white camp, or if simply, well, to cycle, you are cycling, you're man or woman, it's the same. But then at the end of the day, you have to remember that you are more vulnerable. You simply are. And you have to be very careful. So that's the message. Yes, ladies beware, and boys, men, just remember it's not the same.
Something that brought it to my mind a bit more prominently and a bit more starkly is a few guests that I've interviewed who, similar to yourself, Eva, are amazing and have done big journeys, many of them for many months or years at a time. Some of them keep like statistics after a big journey, like, just for themselves to say, wow, this is where I went. This is the longest hours I rode. This is how many nights I wild camped or something. And there's a couple of them, and one of their statistics is creepy men and how many creepy men did I encounter. And it struck me because I thought, I don't think guys even think that they're going to set off on a tour and have to have creepy women.
No, they say sometimes, we have the same because there are, of course, men interested in men. Of course they are, but somehow, you are stronger. But no statistics of creepy men. Yeah, I have it in mind.
I want to go back to something that's not fearful and not creepy, though, and that's something that you said, which was that you love wild camping so much. In some ways, that's why you do it. What's one of the magical moments of wild camping that you really love? Something that you really look forward to with camping?
Oh, like in general?
Yeah.
It's all about the sounds of nature, mostly, because I try to be really off-roads. Not really. I don't go, I haven't been to Alaska or anything. This kind of, white. But the sounds of nature, and I love when it's totally dark at night, when there are no lights of any city around. You can really see the stars, you can see the moon, and that's about this. And I love lazy mornings. I really don't like to rush. I'm just 1% of the cyclists, the long tour cyclists, or maybe cyclists in general, that hates rushing in the morning. It takes me like 3 hours from waking up to maybe, packing and everything, because that's why it's so important to have a good spot. when people don't see you, and you can just really relax and just have your coffee, have your breakfast, just do some research where you go, what to see, or maybe just, use some, whatever. Just have free mind. Yeah, I love white camping.
I don't know that I quite take 3 hours, but I have definitely taken 3 hours to pack up before. So moments that I love my little mini routine of my making of coffee. It's like a little ritual. I make myself a nice cup of coffee. Sometimes it's just instant coffee, but sometimes I make a nice proper coffee and I just sit and I just observe the sounds or something. And I was having this conversation with a previous guest a few weeks ago, actually, because I'd had a disaster. This was at home. I'd accidentally spilt my morning coffee everywhere and I was like, this is a disaster. And I said, have you had that before? And they sort of said, I don't drink coffee. And I'm like, how do you not drink coffee? And he goes, because it's just another thing that would take time to pack up and I just want to be able to go. And I was like, oh, and I realised, Eva, what you were saying. That to me is total opposite to how I am. That's why I love camping, is because it forcibly slows me down.
No, yeah. I actually, you've seen my photos and you're probably just going to put some online. It's like my bike is so heavy. That's because I carry so many things that is just for my comfort, including like a pack of coffee, some tea, some sugar, because unfortunately I have to put sugar into my tea. And it's like, it's, I just carry this because I love to have it. But that's another story.
There is another aspect of it where, a bike adventure doesn't have to be misery and it doesn't have to be suffering either. Like,
absolutely no, it's not about misery, no.
For some people, it has to be a challenge. Yeah, for some people set themselves adventures that are going to challenge themselves.
Yeah. I don't.
And by doing that, they can end up miserable, I guess. I love the idea that you're taking this in your style and you take stuff with you that's going to energize you and make you happy. So you talked about coffee and a bit of sugar. What's a piece of equipment that you would say is a very much a luxury item that you take that maybe you probably don't need to, but for you definitely need to bring with you?
Oh, well, I don't really know. I think I think it's everything that I carry, because I've been doing this for so many years. And, sometimes you meet people and it drives me nuts normally. 95%, they don't know my story at all. But they see my luggage and they say, oh, once you start traveling more, you get rid of it.
Oh, yeah. How must you be inside when someone tells you that? They've just assumed an assumption.
They don't even say, hey, where are you from? What's your name? No, they say, oh, no, so much luggage. That's Bella. I've been having this for years. And sometimes I'm okay with this. But most of the time, I really don't feel good with it. I'm not okay with it because it's so much judging. It's a judgment. And anyway, it's not your business what I carry and how. Just think twice. Anyway, so that's all about the luxury what I have. Like many, even about clothes, I don't think I have that many. I wouldn't be going with 1 or 2 T-shirts. I sweat like a pig normally and I have to change. And I don't like to be dirty. Yeah, so I prefer to change clothes and then carry it. I prefer to have a few pairs of shoes would be sandals, would be covered shoes and flip-flops, yeah? And that wouldn't be 1 pair of shoes, definitely. Yeah, that's, as I said, I carry a lot of food, like a lot of means, like I like to cook and I'm so much on a budget that I have to cook also. So I have to carry this. And do like grocery shopping every maybe 3 days. I'm talking about Europe, yeah, it's mostly. It's not like popping up at a restaurant. I'm not talking actually about a luxury piece of equipment, but everything that I carry, I find it necessary, yeah.
Everything has a reason to be taken.
I would be more sorry not to have it than to feel like, okay, I can go without.
I feel so sorry, Eva, that there's people who wrongly make an assumption that they see your bike and see it loaded up and just assume that you're a beginner who brought too much stuff with them.
I've been having it all the time.
So listeners, I know that there are many of you who listen to this show who are bike travellers or who maybe see bike travellers, and don't be that person that sees someone loaded up with a lot of gear and just assume that they have no clue, because they possibly could be like Eva and could run rings around the amount of bike travel they've done.
Sorry, but I really needed to say that.
The other thing that does come up is When you are travelling on the road in the manner that you do stick out, obviously. So you will have interactions with strangers, being curious. Oh, where are you? Where are you going? Where are you from? Where have you come
That's
from?
the good side.
They're always the questions, and oh, are you alone? Is they're probably the other questions that you get asked. I remember asking this to another previous guest, Al Humphreys, and I want to ask it to you. What is a question no one ever asks you that you wish they would ask you when they meet you in this way?
Oh, well, I have never thought about it. I've never thought about that. I don't know. It just, these are so, when you meet someone, you cannot ask two, so to say, deep questions when you see.
It's always a light touch.
Yeah, but I've had some people ask, like, what drives you once they learned that it's been so long. And I truly appreciated this approach, like the people I met at the hostel. I remember it was in Slovenia a few years back. Two people, trekkers. And they ask like really nice questions, like, what drives you? And it's something that it's a food for thought, it's like, what drives me? Why I've been doing this? So it's not the answer to your question. I don't probably regret somebody having asked. What I regret is, like, for example, just as I told you, like somebody sees me, just passes by and or maybe more people and just talk to each other, like, have you seen her? How much she's carrying? And instead of this, just say hi and like, where are you going? Or the other one that just asked, I was in Kyrgyzstan at the time, and there was a guy that came across from the other direction, also a traveler. And he looked at my bags and he's like, hey, well, how long you've been on the road? Because your bags are like, they lost the color. It was so interesting. Yeah. So he assumed correctly, like they were not brand new. He knew that means, it's a traveler.
You've had some stories in those bags now.
And it was not so nice. It was just like one of the first, questions. It was nice. So what I wish is that people, but we talk about people in maybe other cultures more or less, like they wouldn't ask me, where is my husband? And if I am with someone and my children, like this kind of questions, I'd rather not answer as the first ones.
I have to be that cheeky person that asks you, what does drive you? Because I imagine perhaps, Eva, what drove you 11 years ago, or even when you were 26 and took that first trip, to what drives you now in 2025, potentially something's maybe the same, but maybe it's changed a bit with experiences as well.
I've been trying to answer this question to myself, what keeps me going. And it definitely has changed over years. One thing hasn't changed is just the sense of freedom, just simply, just the freedom. And I really had enough in my places I worked that I had to, deal with people I didn't want to deal with. That I still think it's better to stay in a wet tent than just to go and deal with this again. But it's not the simplest anymore. I'm getting older and it's like the bike feels heavier, but it's still like I see more advantages of I simply want to see the world, it's so interesting. Even now I've been in Sardinia for nearly 4 months now. I was doing a house sitting, probably we'll talk about it a bit later. Why I took to this, it was that it really allows me to see more in the area, to communicate to people. And now I discover new places. It's just really would love to go everywhere. So probably that's the driver. And losing this after so many years, that would be very painful.
Because house sitting is a way that you are able to, I guess, help to fund this in a way. Like by doing house sits, it helps to save money, and like when you have your downtime, so that then you can save up to go touring. I love the idea that you said that you enjoy being able to be in one place long enough to really explore as well, because I've often wondered that with bike travellers, Eva, when you come to places that you don't know about and you see some amazing things, but maybe you don't have the chance to stay as long as you'd like and you have to move on. So is that something that perhaps has changed with your experience as well?
Definitely. I started this kind of life. I'm calling this the living on the road. That wasn't planned. I was planning probably 2 or 3 years at some point. But after a few years, also I didn't have more money. That's another thing. But I discovered house sitting. House sitting is totally unknown. Like it starts to be, but it's something very new. But I heard about it while traveling. And at some point when I was thinking like how to go on, because I live, just my budget is very tight, and how to actually stop for longer in places, because this is what I missed. The interactions were very brief, they were very short. Then I started with house sitting, and it went on. So I've been doing this for 6 years only in Europe, but it allowed me staying in absolutely lovely places, mostly in Italy and in France and in Poland as well. And it allows me really to see and to interact. That's the point. Amazing idea. Not always as easy with the pets or with the owners as well, but that completely has changed my life, so to say, because now every winter, like, I look for a long sit, and it worked for 3 or 4 months. And then the spring comes, and I don't take any more seats because I want to travel in the spring.
It's a beautiful time of year to be
It's
traveling too.
absolutely, it's not as hot in the Mediterranean, especially. And then, and I can save money, in this way, in the winter, just to be able to go.
I have interviewed another bike traveller originally from Finland, although she's lived all over the world, Vivi Rissanen. Hi, Vivi. And she's actually, I think Vivi is just back on the road again now. She's been in New Zealand, but she house sits very similar to what you do. And that's how, she also allows herself to explore other places and has sort of said, like, it's something to look into. Because it's also an opportunity to perhaps stay in places that maybe you wouldn't be able to afford to stay in an area for that long as well.
The places in Tuscany, all the places in Lago di Lake Garda, it's like all the places I said were just amazing. And I couldn't afford probably one day having the house for myself for many weeks, for even months. There was one place in Tuscany, just in the heart, very posh area, that I used to go back for 5 times. They really liked me. I liked them. And I had wonderful cats to care for, wonderful view, wonderful house. So it can be like a dream as well. Yeah.
Hi listeners, are you looking for where your next bike adventure is going to take you? Well, I really hope that you're considering joining me on my first ever Seek Travel Ride lightweight bikepacking tour. Leaving on the 28th of June, we start and finish in the awesome French city of Toulouse. We have 5 days of riding, 6 nights of hotel stays, and all your meals are fully catered for. I am one of your ride leaders, and I'll be giving you some insights into everything that we're going to be seeing along the way on some of the most dreamiest roads in the foothills of the French Pyrenees. To find out more, head to seektravelride.com or check out the link in the show notes through your podcast player app. And if this is something you'd be interested, or maybe you've got a friend who you think could be interested in it, feel free to share that to them as well. I'd love you to be part of my riding crew and join me for what I'm fairly certain is going to be an awesome, fun experience. Okay, now back to the episode. If someone wanted to get into house sitting, what would your advice be for that? Like, how did you get into it to begin with?
It was quite funny because when I came back so I've been on the road for quite a few years. I went to China to teach. I found a job in China, and then I decided to cycle back to Europe. But when I came back, I don't want to live in any city. I'm from Warsaw, Poland, the capital of Poland. I don't like big cities at all. So I said, no, I don't want to live there. I just rented my small place and I want to go somewhere else. And then I went to south of Turkey, which is quite cheap. And I was renting places for two months more or less. And I said, no, I can save this money as well. Let's look into house sitting. But you don't have any reviews and recommendations. That's important when you look for seats. So what I did, I enrolled to one of the websites. I was thinking what to put on the in my profile, and then I Then I just did some screenshots from the reviews from warm showers and from couch surfing. And of course, my description, I have my blog as well, so people can see I'm quite open, So, and can you imagine, I wrote to this lady in Tuscany in Italy. It's just the most lovely place I've been to. And she replied the same day. She said it's because I said, like, I love cats. I am a cat lady. And I actually approach every cat on the road and talk to so.
Oh, wow. Gosh, in places like Turkey, you wouldn't get very far.
No, it was not. No, I was suffering in Turkey, actually.
You would, because they're everywhere.
I did, yeah. Anyway, it happened and then it just went on, So it was just after my first review was quite okay. But as you know, because we talked backstage, it can be a completely different story. Like last 2 weeks actually, 2 house seats were offered and cancelled really quickly.
So you need to be flexible.
Really need to be really flexible. Okay, I have my tent, but at some point I have enough of these changes.
I want to get back to that idea that you were teaching in China. And I know you've cycled in China, but even teaching in China, like how did that come about? Because that's an adventure in itself, I feel.
Yes. All right. I just picked some twists, so to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, we still haven't talked about money, but I can now say that I started with selling the flat after my parents passed away and paying the debt on my small studio in Warsaw. And then there was a few $1,000, so to say, left. With this, I started my journey, and even living on a budget in Southeast Asia, at some point this money finished. Or we're about to finish. I remember just in my first month of travel where I went to the Philippines. Not the best peak to cycle, I must say.
But there was a flight ticket special.
There was some offer, and I said, "Oh, why don't I just to the Philippines?" And anyway, so yeah, and I met Chinese cyclists. Actually, it was also quite funny because he was from Shanghai, and I approached him. He was a warm shower, so they just met on the road in the Philippines.
Serendipity, yeah.
He said that with your looks, but he didn't mean like the beauty or so on, but he meant blonde hair and blue eyes, which are of a really big value in Asia. And if you're as a teacher, he said, and with your English, you can always look for a job in China. And that's what I remembered when my money was about to finish, and I started to look for a job in China, which wasn't that easy. But then what happened was I saw a conversation on Facebook. It was a guy from Belarus, again, Belarus. He was cycling also to Asia, and he was stopped by someone in China, in a big city in China, and asked to teach English there because he was a tall, blonde guy, And I contacted him because I realized he's teaching, and he contacted me with his school, and we had just had a proper interview, and they invited me. That was the story. So that was again about the cyclist telling cyclists.
Yeah. Passing the knowledge and the information on. Like, did you have a background in teaching English?
Yeah, I had. I had. Yeah. I didn't have papers, but I had, and that was kind of my things I really thought I could do. It was very difficult. China was very, very difficult. I was traveling, I was cycling in south of China for 3 months before, but Northwest is a different story, totally different story. And I simply working in China is a different story. This working culture, never ending working, it's just a killer, but it was an experience. And it's really, I earned a few thousand to go on cycling. So
yeah, and then continue on your adventures there as well. Because you have, like you said, you've cycled in China a fair bit.
I cycled in the south, when I was cycling Southeast Asia, and I went from Laos, and then I spent 3 months in the south, in Yunnan and Sichuan. So amazing and so tough. And in Tibet, actually, Tibetan Plateau, and it's somewhere that you cannot probably go now. I mean, it's that Tibet is off, but Sichuan is not. You can go there.
I've interviewed a few guests who've had I guess, I don't know, what, just traveling as a foreigner in China and being able to travel freely or stay in places, that has been problematic for people as well, and like police escorts and places where you can stay, where you can't stay. Now, how was your experience like for that? Was that something as well?
Well, totally different. When people, because it turned out, and I discovered that in China, it's totally in different provinces. So when I was cycling in the south, as I said, in the mountains of Yunnan and Sichuan, I was totally free. Nobody was better. No, nobody bothered. I could camp, I could rent places, and maybe there was one or two hotels that didn't accept me for some reason. I didn't understand. I wasn't even using any social media at the time. It was blocked, and I didn't bother. So anyway, I just went to another hotel that did accept me. But when I went to live in the northwest, it's actually like the second Tibet. I don't know if you've heard about Uyghur people, but that's
Yeah,
but you
definitely.
did, but it's maybe not that much known in Poland. But that was where I was living. So even when I was teaching Uyghur people and in Chinese people.
Wow, that is a unique experience ever.
Absolutely unique. I cannot go to China anymore because nobody would give me visa, and actually I wouldn't like to be. But that's another story. But then you cannot cycle freely there. I mean, you cannot stay overnight anyway. It's forbidden. I did. I did. People cannot host you. People hosted me, but you have to have it in the back of your head that they are in trouble. And I wasn't actually meaning to put them in trouble. But that somehow happened that even Chinese people hosted me a few times. Like a receptionist from a hotel, I arrived at the hotel. The hotel said, no, you cannot stay there. And when it's 8 p.m., another hotel is 60 kilometers away. Thank you very much. What I'm supposed to do? And the receptionist just said, okay, wait, I call my sister and you just go to my home. So it might happen, but I wouldn't like to be the one that causes this and just pops up and knocks and say, hey, this is me. I'm a traveler, and just nothing. I had such situations in different places. But anyway, it's many. There are many things. But coming back to China, definitely, you cannot do it in some areas. You're just supposed to stay in the hotels that are only meant for foreigners, which are usually much more expensive. And I had such situations when I was going through the Tian Shan, through this region, that I actually didn't have a place to stay, also because it was booked up. And I went to the police station. That's the main thing, and I want to tell it also to pass this knowledge. Just go to the police. I did it in Burma. I did it in Myanmar. I just went to the police station and said, hey, I'm here. I need to have a place to stay. And now it's their responsibility to find you a place to stay, but they know where you are. They can also be like in Myanmar. They can be in front of the hotel all night.
I was going to ask about Myanmar because that's also somewhere where, well,
There's so many topics, so many places to check.
oh, well, I could have multiple interviews with you ever, and if I will always welcome that with you. Because when were you in Myanmar? Is obviously Myanmar now is definitely out of bounds.
No, now it's a no-go, yeah. No, it was at the beginning of my 2014, I guess, 2014, so already 11 years. It's actually opened like shortly before, so I enjoyed this country also. I remember I couldn't cross, like land crossing at some borders wasn't possible for cyclists. Like I would have to take a plane. I flew in actually from the Philippines, but I had to be very careful how to go to Thailand because not all the land crossings and not all the areas were accessible simply to foreigners. I had a lot of kind of fun in Myanmar also because the police was following me all the time. But I was at the beginning of my travel. I didn't know what I was. It was quite funny and quite annoying at the same time. But yeah, I discovered just simply the distances between the hotels were too big for me to cover. The solution was to go to the police station, and then they also sometimes once they brought I think somebody to translate. And I had an official stamp, I think, that you can stay in a guest house for locals. And I stayed in guest houses for locals, which was another experience.
Oh gosh, that would be an experience that's so rare.
Absolutely. And I'm so sorry it's what's happening in this country again right now. It's a lovely country and lovely people, definitely. With this genuine smile and just kind of, I don't know how to call it. I just felt like in heaven over there,
What drew you to Myanmar then? Because we joked that it was a cheap flight that drew you to the Philippines, but what drew you to Myanmar?
I don't know. It just, if you told me about Myanmar 20 years ago, actually, one of my friends told me, one of my friends is going to Myanmar, and I asked him the same question: Why Myanmar? I don't know anything about this country. But after, when I started just to to do some research and so on, I said, "Oh, I really want to visit Myanmar just because of this. This is the window, like they opened." And I knew that accommodation there is more expensive because you are supposed to stay only in places for foreigners.
It's controlled, yeah.
Yeah. So I said, okay, let's do it at the beginning of my travel when I still have some money. So I bought it on purpose. I bought this ticket on purpose to go to Myanmar. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to see this country, and I did.
There's a comment that I saw on your blog. And listeners, I'm going to provide links to Eva's blog in the show notes. So if you go into your podcast player, you'll look at a long series of notes, and in that will be links, and one of them will be to your blog, Eva. It's awesome. It's in Polish and also in English. So you can click on the little English flag in the top right corner, and it's all translated. And so, Eva, I'm going to say, I've got a quote, and maybe it's not how you've written it, because I imagine you would write in Polish, but the quote pretty much says, "I set out without a specific plan, but with great curiosity about the world," and that's it. And that really sums up, what you were saying there.
Because that's how it is, It's I'm so happy to have this curiosity, It's just really so many places to see, so many. It's not only about people you meet, Some say it's just you cycle for the people, okay. But if you are an introvert like me, and you are really not, I like quiet places and silence. I'm oversensitive. So it's not the best to be between people all the time. But I think also about the landscapes and the beautiful places. Why don't we mention this? This is not only about people. I appreciate people. I appreciate meeting you. Just no, it's just can be the opposite. So that's what drives me. I'm looking forward here in Sardinia. I have a few places I want to go. It's just like this.
Eva, I'm clearly an extrovert and I love meeting new people, but my bike adventures are all about the landscapes.
Okay, thank you so much.
And the food. But no, I dream for big landscapes. Like I moved to the mountains for a reason. I love looking out my window and hearing the cowbells from a distant herd up on a high peak and seeing the beautiful mountain peaks. They're the landscapes that I really, really crave. You've seen so many different varied landscapes. We were talking about, riding along the Silk Road route, Southeast Asia, China, the Tibetan Plateau. Oh, gosh. And, wide open deserts to, places like Sardinia, which is totally, totally different.
Totally different.
If you could pick yourself a perfect day, this sounds like a very shallow question, but I'm going there. If you could pick yourself a perfect cycle day, so you've had your wild camp, your breakfast with coffee, 3 hours to pack up, and your perfect day, where are you cycling for your perfect day?
Okay, I have preferred days. They are. That would be like not a very hot day, but around 25 degrees during the day, like we talk Celsius.
That's like my perfect summer temperature.
Yeah. That's why I also say I want to cycle Europe in the spring, because then it's like in the south, it's too hot. And well, like it's all quiet. And then about the landscape, I would say it's healing. The hills, like I'm always saying that, okay, it's easy when it's flat, but the hills give you the view. The hills, the mountains, then you suffer. Me with my luggage, definitely. Many times, I just walk and push. But then when you see what's around the corner, it changes around the corner, So yeah, healing, definitely. Like hills. Tuscany is absolutely amazing in terms of, it's a dream views, definitely dream views, but it's super challenging for cycling. Also because of the roads, they are white roads and it's like a gravel. And actually, I hate it. So that's why I'm saying this. There would be maybe Tuscany, but with kind of paved roads. I beg your pardon, sorry to say. But then I don't like to be like on dust all over me in just the first half an hour.
That's fair. Maybe it could have rained very lightly the night before, so the road is not dusty.
No. But these are the cars that passing by, and you cannot hide.
No, but it's your perfect day, so it's car free that day.
Yeah, and I stop here and there, and I stop so many times.
I know we mentioned, you're on a budget, so you cook a lot for yourself. I can't do a podcast episode ever without mentioning food. I want you to tell me about a food experience, any type of food experience which totally blew your mind, and or ones that give you joy. You've got so many from 11 years. It's another impossible, superficial question, but I want to talk food with you.
No, of course. Well, we cannot just go deep. Well, the food matters, and of course, China. It wasn't Thailand as far as I thought. Thailand was great as well, but if you think of Thailand and cycling and having the Thailand curry all the time, it's not gonna happen along the road. But also along the road, there were always sticky rice and chicken and papaya salad, which I love. But that would be every day. China just blew my mind in terms of food. Like not all over, because actually in the region I worked, the food was more Central Asian. It was Central Asian, so wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. But like in the south, in Yunnan, Sichuan, you just pop up at the restaurant. You don't know what they are going to cook. You just point at some ingredients, and after 5 minutes, you have it stir fried with. Just blew my mind nearly every day. And once I discovered ginger, we didn't have it in, like, it's not a Polish ingredient.
As an Australian, that goes way over my head because I grow up with these sort of foods. Not cooked to the distinct way that a Szechuan Chinese person could cook them, but ginger is in my kitchen. Wow.
But that's why I'm saying this is not in our kitchen, because of course, I was already well traveled, but I didn't know what's the ingredient. Can you imagine? I was eating it. I knew there is something I love. I didn't know it was ginger. I say it openly. I didn't know about it because, as I say, I use it a lot in my kitchen right now, but I didn't know it in 2014 that I was eating ginger, but it was something that they add, even if they just boil some cabbage they used to, salad. There was still another thing they were giving always, and they would put ginger. And once I discovered what's this, I just had it in my phone written, it's just translating. I was showing them, please put ginger.
Can I ask, Eva, you've travelled for so long. Did you always intend to travel for so long?
No.
When you flew to the Philippines, what did you have in mind?
I knew it's gonna be long, because what happened first was Japan. And what happened first were many multi-weeks journeys, so to say, in Europe. I also used to organize for others. But then I went to Japan when I said goodbye to my job, and I decided to change my life in a way. And I went there for 3 months. So I bought a ticket in and out because you were allowed to stay for 3 months. And I loved it so much, I didn't want to come back. I truly was sorry to come back home. So when I bought the ticket to Philippines I needed the journey. It was supposed to last, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years. I really wanted it to be long. So I rented my small place in Warsaw, and I just tried to prepare for everything, which was another pain in the neck. The banks and basically packing all your stuff, your life, into boxes. Yeah, and putting it in your basement. And I must say I was very short of time. But anyway, so coming back to your question, I wanted it to be longer, but not as much. I've been prolonging it year after year, like going back to home to Poland around September, because that's where the contract for my flat expires. And then I'm always asking myself, do I want to prolong for another year if somebody wants to? And then I always finish with prolonging, because I think it's, even if I don't travel, I simply don't want to stay in the city. So I said, okay, even if I change my mind, maybe with this money, which is not a lot compared to Western world. Yeah, but maybe I can rent something in a place that I really feel much better.
And I guess that's that prompt. So every September, there's also that inner probe and question to yourself: is the desire to travel and keep doing this still there? Like, do you have the fire for it? And clearly, you do. I read something where you said travel has always been my passion, but traveling by bike has become my addiction.
Yeah, that's...
I can hear that as I interview you. It's really clear. But again, it's linked to freedom, curiosity.
That's what bikes gives you. Yeah, that's maybe a motor. No, my motorbike is already different because you need to care about fuel. So maybe walking, you can compare these two.
Listeners, if you're into adventure cycling, bikepacking, or just love hearing the kinds of stories that we're featuring on the podcast, then you need to come to Beyond the Bike. It's a live event I'm co-hosting in London on the 14th and 15th of May at Peckham Levels. Each night, we've got an amazing lineup of riders, ultracyclists, round-the-world adventurers, filmmakers and storytellers, plus exclusive film screenings, audience Q&As, and even a gear giveaway from Old Man Mountain. It's 2 nights of everything you love about bike adventures, off the screen and in real life. Tickets are on sale now via Eventbrite. Just search for Beyond the Bike or head into your podcast player app and hit the link in the show notes. Get your tickets, join me, come and say hello. Now let's get back to the episode. I have a question for you, Ewa, and it is actually by someone that you know, and a previous podcast guest, Agnieszka Baginska, another Polish adventurer who loves taking long-distance travels. I knew that you both knew each other, so I reached out to Agnieszka before the interview and I said, if you were to ask Ewa a question, what would that question be? So the question that she sent me through is, what is the most challenging country that you have visited and how did you deal with being there?
Oh wow, what a story. Yeah, it depends in challenging in which terms, But I think I need to say Iran. Actually, I need to say Iran, and it's not about the geography, the temperature, the climbs, and so on, which probably would be as well, but about the approach to women. That's it. So I would say, yes, that was the big challenge. That was the kind of a bigger twist. Something that I like, that Iran is actually not the best country for cycling for solo women. I've heard about it, but once I really learned it, so to say, yeah, I had this experience. So that was the biggest challenge. I would say this one.
Because you did have some horrible situations occur to you cycling solo as a woman in Iran. And it's interesting, before this interview, I always like to research about people and research where their journeys have taken them. And it's funny because Iran was a country I think I've talked about so many times with many travellers before, because there's always been that intrigue of Iran for reasons. And your experiences in Iran were not what I had heard in my interviews. And I realised that I have interviewed many world travellers who some cycle solo, some in groups, but I haven't actually spoken, I don't think, about Iran with another solo female who's cycled through Iran solo. I've interviewed people who've travelled as a couple or travelled with a group or solo males, but you as a solo female, so your experience was a unique one that I haven't actually considered before. And it was quite challenging for you, to say the least, Ewa.
Well, yes, that's why I mentioned this. And that's good that you say that. It's good to just say that it's so different for ladies, solo ladies, or for couples and for men, because we are talking women now. And I had a terrible experience, not actually one, as a solo woman. And then I had very good experience in Iran, and I stayed there for 2 months, finally. Although my bad experiences were both during the first 10 days, So I'm not going to say it's a horrible country, but what we miss, and normally what we hear, as you say, about Iran is just amazing people and friendly people. And it's not about the regime, the now it's about people, and it's all roses, basically. You go there, you are fed, you are invited every night. I just didn't accept these invitations usually. So I had horrible experience in Iran, and not just me, and at least two other girls cyclists I know personally, and many others that I spoke to or communicated with. Just be careful, because you need to be careful, very careful when cycling around.
Because you also pointed out in your blog post, there have been women who've cycled solo there and had a fine time.
Yeah.
It's not to say that you go there and 100% you're going to have bad things happen to you as a solo female in Iran, but it's also something that perhaps isn't highlighted at all. And listeners, Eva has written an amazing blog post about what did happen to her and what has happened to other people as well. And it was horrendous what happened to you, Eva, and I hate that you even had to go through it.
Yeah, you know, the sexual harassment. I was basically, I was being raped at the beginning, and my fourth day, and on a remote road, and the guy escaped just because I started to scream, and then I realized and I learned that in these countries, women simply don't scream. That's really what you have to do. And so I managed to escape, but then I dealt with the police. I dealt with the court. I had to wear chador in the Iranian court. My embassy was involved. They found the guy and they punished him. But because I dared to go to the police, with it. But I wasn't sure whether I should go, because you know what, I was on a remote road, and I was really found a place finally when I could cook. And I took off my scarf, and I was in a t-shirt. I had long pants all the time, but so I was perceived as I shouldn't be behaving like this in Iran. You should wear you should cover. But I was by myself, and the guy found me there because he was following me for quite some time. I thought he went forever, but he found me. So I was quite hesitant whether to go to the police with this, because then I was probably could be punished. But then, I contacted my embassy and they dealt with this. And then, just to cut story short, I stopped for 4 days, and I went, okay, so I was so curious about Iran in general. I said, okay, I need to be careful. I need to stay every day in like a paid accommodation or somewhere. And then it happened again. It happened again at a gas station. A guy went after me to the women's toilet, and he pushed me inside, and it was a terrible experience. I think much more than the first one even. I don't know, this guy had something bad in his eyes. And then again I screamed, right, that the women's toilet is the end of everything. So nobody could hear me. There was a just field of tomatoes, but he escaped also. But then I started I was just crying, and I said, never again. And then, And then I learned about other women, that there were guys waiting for them by the road. And we talk about cyclists, solo female cyclists, and I don't want really to spread the fear again, but really this is another culture. This is something I wouldn't even imagine, so. And then I had a great story, and I met a guy, and actually had a kind of a relationship anyway, but yeah.
But I guess that's sort of, we were talking before we recorded when we were talking about this, and you were saying, Iran is a country of, was it contrasts?
Yeah.
It's very cliche, but that is a contrasting experience, because before that, though, to have the conviction to continue on, was it a case of you had no choice because of where you were? Like, was there a point where you just thought, I don't want to be here anymore and I'm going to leave straight away? Because you obviously did continue to stay in Iran, you travelled through Iran. Like, what led you to that decision?
And I had people, some followers, telling me, like, why the hell are you staying there? Okay, 2 reasons. The first one has always been the curiosity. I just arrived in Iran, and I haven't seen anything. I've seen the first place. The first sexual harassment happened in the island of Kashmir. It was absolute beauty by itself. But then I didn't see anything else. But of course, I had this, I completely changed my perception. I was simply scared. I was paranoidally scared of all the people, because what happens there that you are you stand out basically. Yeah. And when you cycle the road, there are cars or motorbikes passing by like 3 times. And I see it in my mirror, and I see these are the same cars and the same motorbikes. And it can be curiosity, but then I felt like I just tap and take picture of this one. I learned that taking pictures also helps, and scares them off. But anyway, I know it was paranoid, but your question is why I stayed, because I really wanted to see more. But and I didn't. The second thing was I was going from the south. I came to Oman and to the Emirates to spend the winter. And then I wanted to be in the spring in Caucasus. So I wanted to cross from the south north with the temperatures, so to say. And it was mid-February. It was just snow in the Caucasus, in Azerbaijan, in Georgia, in Armenia. Not much fun. So I decided that I will not be traveling on a bike, but with a bike, which was very easy as well in Iran, just to put your bike on a bus. And I stayed in places I wanted to see for a week. I could afford this. It wasn't so expensive. And that's how it was the first month. I was hosted as well by some warm showers, but I tended not to ask people like for hosting, because they can get in trouble as well. And I have a proof of this as well, because one host canceled my stay on the same day and after 3 months he approached me and said, look, the police contacted me. They screen your warm showers or couch surfing account. They knew that you were coming. Anyway, that's another story. So I tended not to ask people for this. But then once I went north, and it has changed. The people, I guess they were quite more educated, and maybe the areas, and it felt differently. And I started to cycle a little bit day by day again, just staying in hotels, and then day by day. I could do it in the north, because also some people, some solo female travelers, they cross the north, like from Azerbaijan or Armenia to, going the Silk Road to Turkmenistan, most probably. And they say, oh, it was all fantastic. And I agree, it felt completely different there. But all what happened was in the central, in the south, and for some other ladies in the mountains. Yeah, so, yeah. Anyway, so what drove me, with these two things. I really wanted to see more. And I wanted to arrive in Azerbaijan, because I chose Azerbaijan like in spring. 2 months in Iran, and Nowruz, which was like right now, these days, they have this biggest kind of holiday. And then I met lovely people, and I said also had kind of a romance there. So things change. But whenever we say Iran, it's going to be about be careful. Be careful, yeah.
Would you ever take part of your bike tour with another person? Like you were saying you like traveling on your own, and maybe have you ever been joined on the road by other bike travelers and shared part of your journey with other bike travelers? Would you consider ever going back to Iran but with someone else, so you're not on your own?
I'm quite naughty when it comes to being with someone, I turned into a beast in a few days, I'm sorry to say. I don't wish people the worst, but if they want, they just should join me. No, it is true. I'm quite complicated at some point. And so I like my freedom so much that I find it really very difficult just to compromise, So if I could consider, probably not, or if so, for a few days, because I did join forces in at some point with a guy from India, for example. We cycled for 2 or 3 weeks in Southeast Asia, but he had to also compromise because I was so slow that after 2 weeks said goodbye, because he needs to go quicker.
I mean, I do know there are bike travellers who didn't intend to be riding with other people, but all of a sudden their journeys have almost entirely been with other people, and that's great for them. And everyone travels differently, don't they? But I've always thought it would be rare to meet people who you just ultimately connect with so well that you're happy to be travelling at their pace and on their itinerary. Or there's a reason why you've been solo on the road.
There is a reason, definitely, and it's not too romantic, so to say.
People often tell me that, well, you have to be comfortable being on your own to do this for so long, but was that something that you learnt to be comfortable with, or were you always comfortable with being?
I've always been, I'm the only child, and I think that also matters. I always knew how to, I don't know, entertain myself, or just, I have absolutely no problem with being by myself. I don't know what it, even you mentioned this question about solitude. I don't know if I don't realize it. Sometimes maybe I feel lonely if something bad happens, if something happens that really touches my soul. And I say, okay, I would like to be with someone just to share this moment. But otherwise, I'm really happy with myself, just being with myself. I just don't know why people are searching for mates to travel. I just like, how can you don't know anyone, you are looking for people to travel with, and you don't know how they behave on the road, and it can finish really it can ruin your holiday, or it may not, but no, absolutely, I'm okay with myself and with entertaining myself as well.
A question that's come up with long-term bike travellers has been that sense of community, and we sort of hinted at it when we were talking earlier in the show about you staying put in one place for longer, so you feel you're part of an area and you have those sort of interactions a bit more. Is community something that you perhaps miss a bit more when you're on the road for so long?
I definitely miss community, miss some interactions sometimes. But I can tell you an example. I've been here in Sardinia, and I stayed in one place in the suburbs of Cagliari, capital of Sardinia. And I thought, okay, that's actually good that I will be in the city. It was just by the sea, but it was in the city. I could take a bus, I could cycle, and so I can somehow interact with people more. And the lady I was house sitting for, she left me contact to at least like 3 or 4 of her friends around, like the ladies that were living there, because she couldn't imagine I can stay by myself, just on my own so long. And you know what? I haven't contacted any of them even once. I had some things I really wanted to work on, so I was counting like every day and every hour so I could focus on some writing and some things I really wanted to complete. But I didn't miss these interactions.
I feel like you can't do this type of long-term travel if you weren't. It would be so torturous.
Why would you do it?
With that, wouldn't it?
Do it?
Exactly.
Because what would you? I am always saying this is about pleasure. Like, I don't need to climb this hill, never-ending hill, if I'm tired and if somebody stops and wants to give me a lift. I'm okay with this. It's not a sin. It happened, and then I'm happy. Many times I'm happy. No, it's all about pleasure and curiosity, definitely.
Where are you curious to travel to?
I started my, so to say, life on a bicycle with the thought I really want to go to South America. But the flight promos I told you about were only to Asia, so I bought this ticket to the Philippines. And I've never been to South America, finally. I was cycling the US, but with friends, but then no Americas at all. And that would be a big project because I'm also like, I'm getting tired more easily, and cycling there is definitely challenging. But I think curiosity is everywhere. I started to think about Africa, which sounds to me like the most challenging. But I have some South African friends, solo females. So this one, but last but not least, and actually the first one, are now the areas in Europe, because I haven't cycled Spain, for example. I was there when the pandemic hit, so I had to go back home. And I think I will stay in Europe another summer because simply I have so much to discover.
I think you discovered in a different way. You're not one that's keen to take the Eurovelo routes. We joked about that before we pressed record. I feel like you're going to discover some awesome places. the squiggly lines, the twisty-turny. It's not going to be a point-to-point ride wherever you travel through Europe, I don't see.
No, but funny thing about Eurovelo roads, I'm sometimes... No, I'm usually quite surprised that maybe that's the easiest to do when you are, I don't know, from Australia, from America, and you look for a place to cycle in Europe, and you treat it as a Europe normally, and it's Europe like one country. That's what happens also.
Oh, you're so right.
Sorry, but they say, I go to Europe, and then it turns out they just go to Italy, France. Thank you very much. That's it.
But even in one country, it's so different as well. Try and tell someone from the Pays Basque to the Catalan, that the Pyrenees, either end of it, that it's the same. It's very different even in that sort of microcosm.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, it's somebody else's perspective. So probably the people are searching for the easiest, something that is planned already. I actually started to cycle also just to try some, maybe not Eurovelos, but just some velo routes. And for some time, it's really quite nice. As we talked before, I can listen to some podcasts if it's a quiet, road for bicycles. But the real life is of these roads, like the reality is you just need to leave this road and make a detour and see the villages. Yeah. And go a bit off-road to really meet people that don't see tourists all the time, and that they're just fed up, like, well, especially Italy and France as well. They just simply have enough.
Do you find that's harder to do? Like to find places that are a bit more, we have a saying, off the beaten track? Because do you find that with a world that's so connected, that's got so much information out there that people can research, that these places are becoming less and less?
Oh, maybe they're becoming less and less, of course. It's like everything is available. Like I cycled Japan with paper maps. Can you imagine? Like I was buying Japanese atlases and I didn't understand a word, but I was looking at the shapes and I still have them because I sent them back home because I felt so emotional about those papers.
Do you still use paper maps at all?
I love paper maps, but it's I just go to tourist offices and pick them, carry them forever then. But of course, I know I rely on the apps. What was the question? Oh my God. If it's easy to find the back roads. Oh my goodness, no. No, in Europe, we are full of back roads. I don't know. I haven't been to Australia. I cycled maybe Central Asia, which is also like 1-2 roads in some places. In Europe, we have so many back roads. You just take them.
What about discovering your own country? You've obviously taken some tours through Poland as well. How has that been to discover your own country on a bike?
It's it's like I'm always I'm always discovering my country. I've been discovering my country since I really started to discover here. So I'm going now. I think I've covered most of it, but still maybe there are places. No, definitely there are places I haven't been to. But it's like when you go back to places, because I go back to Poland the last years that I've been doing house sitting. I go to Poland when it starts to be too hot in the south. So let's say between May or even between July and September, October, which is the most comfortable. And Poland becoming a much better place to cycle. Because we, as you know, we used to be a communist country, so the velo roads and the cycling roads didn't exist. There were some signed, posted roads, but sometimes they were terrible. But of course, they started or also to think about it, and there are regions they really take care about cyclists, and I discovered they really do a good job. So it's really fun also to go back to these places, even like after 2 years, to see what has been developed or even to new. So it's like a continuous discovery again. But again, I'm not 20 anymore. So I've been to places that I was interested in, not just once. So I really look for some more. Because some people say, oh, why don't you discover your country? But guys, I've been doing this for years.
Yeah, it's not like you've only just started.
Yeah, and really Poland is so diverse.
Okay, so this is what I need to ask. I need to ask a selfish question because I've never been to Poland. If I was going to go on a cycle tour to Poland, and you know this about me, Eva, I love hilly terrain. If you had to give me a choice of the worst possible terrain to ride on, it would be like a canal path or a river route or a flat road. So where in Poland would you recommend that I go?
Okay, so let's start with a little bit of geography then. So you go, so Poland is just Baltic Sea in the north, and we have wonderful Eurovelo route along the Baltic Sea, but you wouldn't go there probably. It's beautiful, but you shouldn't go there between, late June and August, which is crowded with people. But, okay, so there is seaside, there are lakes area that are also hilly, but not like, really going, but it can be hilly and challenging, but especially because these are lakes and you go there in the summer. It happened so that I was just, going to swim 3 times a day. Beautiful, awesome lakes, small, bigger, whatever. And then there is like 70% of Poland is flat area. So no go for you. But for me either. I come from there and I always say it's quite boring. Just go to the south and then we have really quite challenging mountains and higher, but also in culture-wise, it's about the architecture there. It's like coming from the Ukrainian border towards I don't know, there's Slovakia, Czech Republic, and finally Germany in the south as borders. So going from the east, it's the architecture also changes. What I love the most is wooden architecture. It's so unique. For example, the churches, there were wooden churches. They are pearls, they are on UNESCO list now. So it's not only about the woods, about, the hills, but also about these small remote places to see and culture. Food as well, it's different there. Definitely the south of Poland. And you could cross, like you go more or less not along the border, but like here and there, zigzagging. There wouldn't be any of the Eurovelo roads though.
But a zigzag with some rolling mountainous terrain. And just put it out there, I mean, I love the mountains, but it doesn't have to be mountainous. It can be hills.
No, but the hills are, oh my goodness, they're just so demanding. Just go up and down.
Are they really, really steep?
Can be steep, yeah.
They're not like Swiss roads that are just all the same gradient forever.
So you would love Yunnan as well in China, I must tell you, because in China I had an impression in Yunnan in the south that there are no roads that go along the rivers, that they just cross all the mountains. It was a constant up and down, up and down, up and down, and up and down. Like 2,000 meters up, going down to the 200, and then you start again.
Well, I want to throw a challenge to you then, Eva. I always ask my guests to tell me about one day of their trip. For someone who's travelled for decades doing stuff like this, I know just one day is impossible. So I'm going to help you and say, I want you to tell me about a day riding through Yunnan in China. What would you tell me about just any day that you were riding there? Just from what you remember, what was that day like?
Oh, well, China is still another story. Because that would mean probably that I don't sleep wild, because it was quite challenging also in this. No, I was sleeping wild, but to my surprise, the land there is so cultivated, even like by the road between the trees, they would plant something, so it was impossible to find a pitch. So that would mean I'm in a hotel that it's completely different story. And even not in China, I would just, wake up, open my eyes with the daylight coming and having slowly my breakfast. That's the first thing I'm doing, sitting in a tent and just admiring the landscape and slowly getting ready and then having my coffee after my breakfast. But also, if it's possible, I wash if I have enough water. So I really like to be like refreshed in the morning as well, in the evening, but then in the morning as well. Yeah, and that will give me some more energy, and I would start packing. And because I have so many bags, it takes time. And if I'm okay with timing, I would be ready by 9. But normally it's about 10, and it's already sometimes too hot at 10 o'clock. And I start cycling, and I stop in the nearest village to eat because I'm already hungry at 11. Again, and so it's so slow. And then I have and in my rhythm, and I get getting sleepy in the afternoon. So sometimes it's so irresistible, I cannot really stop it, and I have to stop and even if it's hot, like I remember Turkey. I was cycling Turkey in July and August, the central Turkey. I had to find a shade. I had to find a tree, and just I stay for 4 hours, just waiting for this to pass, and then I continue, but the days are long. So I would really have a lot of energy in the afternoon as well. That's it.
That's a perfect day to me. And it's in your rhythm.
Yeah, my rhythm is absolutely what counts. And I'm slow. It's not for speed. That's my motto, not for speed.
You're taking journeys for a long time. I don't understand why you'd want to rush.
What's the rush?
What about on a bad weather day? What's your instincts? Say you wake up and
it's raining.
Yeah, what do you instinctively do there? Like, you'll still take 3 hours to get ready, or will you take 4 or 5? Like, have you ever...
It depends. So now with all the applications that we have, if it's coming like a really shitty day and it's gonna like be pouring rain for a day, I try to find a proper place the night before, like proper means not necessarily paid accommodation, but like find a roof or, kind of a garage on an abandoned house, if it's possible, or ask people. Yeah, I try to do it. Also, my tent is not in the best shape anymore.
I'm sure it's been used by quite a lot.
It's a great, very cheap tent that lasted for years.
Oh my goodness, Eva, I need to speak to you for hours because you've got so many stories, but I have to wrap this show up. I have 3 questions I ask every guest. The first one is music related and it's about a song. You're a guest of the podcast. There is a Seek Travel Ride music playlist, and on that playlist is a song chosen by every guest. And it's a song that they choose to be the soundtrack to their adventures. What song would you choose to represent you?
Oh, well, I saw this question and I thought, oh no, I don't actually listen to music while I'm cycling. A little bit sometimes, but then I pick up one song that is just repeated and stays and goes forever. But as a soundtrack, I think Long and Winding Road by the Beatles. It just stays, it just comes to my mind whenever I'm cycling the hills, the perfect hills,
Yeah. I love that. Beautiful. One day, Eva, you're given a choice. You can go left, but you will be on a road that is super bumpy, corrugated, there is no flat, the road just shakes every bit of your body and it's dirt. Or you can go right, but you will be battered by a never-ending headwind front on. Which way are you going to go? What would you choose, the bumpy road or the headwind?
I would try to find a third solution, I guess.
Oh, I love that answer, but you can't get out of it that easy. I mean, some people say that often they have been on bumpy headwind roads. But what would you choose?
I hate headwind. I hate. So probably I would probably stay on the bumpy road, but it's also not my favorite. It's just
no. Okay, team bumpy road.
I would
team
look for a
corrugation.
Eurovelo then.
Maybe you're staying in the tent that day, contemplating
exactly.
Wait for the tailwind.
No, I would be already on the crossroads, so probably not then. But as I said, I would maybe I would look for another solution and see when the wind passes.
I had someone say they choose the headwind road because they know that the wind does eventually stop, whereas a bumpy road is always that way.
Okay, yeah, that's why I'm saying it's really. I had some bumpy roads I really regretted going onto. So okay, so maybe the headwinds would be not such an adventure anymore. But
okay, final question. This one, I want you to finish this sentence for me, and the sentence is: the best thing about taking a bike adventure is
freedom. That's a cliche, but that's a freedom. Yeah, absolutely. It just takes you anywhere. It just takes you to people. It just takes you to places, and it also you can carry more that on your backpack if you walk. So, but no, definitely that's the freedom.
Oh, it's been the undertone for this whole discussion: is freedom and curiosity. I hear it in every response that you've had. Has been that sense of freedom since you were a kid. Since you got that bike that you kept from, how old did you get it? When you were 11 and you had it until you were 20 something? Like, it's been amazing to think that you've been taking these journeys for that long. I came across another quote that was translated on your blog. So perhaps you wrote this a little bit different in Polish words, but in English it was like this. And it said, I am still here, but not for too long. Maybe a few days more in Poland. But I miss my cycling routine and at the same time my travelling with no routine. Naps on the way, mornings in the tent, packing in the morning, searching for accommodation in the evening, meetings on the road, discovering new landscapes. And I thought that's just something that really sums you up. I thought that when I read it, having spoken to you now, Eva, I think it even more strongly. I can tell that when you renew that thought, do I want to stop this in September and go home, or will I keep prolonging? You're definitely prolonging for a little while more. Ewa Świderska, it has been an absolute pleasure. I am so happy that we crossed paths so that I could interview you today and share your story. Thank you so much for sharing time and all your experiences on the podcast here for Seek Travel Ride.
Thank you so much. I got really emotional right now. You really did a lot of just to see what I've written and just to quote this and you see, I'm emotional. Thank you so much also for letting me be here. Thank you.
Listeners, I really enjoyed my conversation with Ewa, and I learnt so much chatting with her as well. After we finished recording, there was something that I mentioned, and I said, I don't think she travels as a choice. I think she travels because it's just part of her. It's a need. It's that passion and that fire that she needs to keep fueling. Maybe one day she will stop, but for the foreseeable future, I can see her continuing to take long bike journeys. And I really appreciate the insights that she shared from her travels, her reflections. It was so clear to me that she really knows herself so well, that she knows what she likes, what she dislikes. I really got irked by the idea that people have seen her and seen her bike loaded up and just made the wrong assumption that because she rides with so many bags that she's a beginner. Like, oh my goodness. The stories that we could have gone through from her years of travel are almost overwhelming. She has an amazing blog, which I have linked in the show notes, as well as her Facebook and Instagram accounts. I 100% encourage you to go flick through some of those stories. It will fill you with the deepest sense of wanderlust. Maybe a bit of a warning. Perhaps it's going to prompt you to pack some luggage on your bike and take that bike adventure as well. How about the south of Poland? It sounds dreamy. Now, listeners, if you've been enjoying listening to Seek Travel Ride and you want to help this independent podcaster out, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I've got a link in the show notes, or simply go to buymeacoffee.com/Seek Travel Ride. Buy me some virtual brews, keep me caffeinated, but most importantly when you do, leave me a message and let me know what bike adventures are you inspired to go on and ride. And until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening. And before you go, don't forget, Beyond the Bike is happening soon in London on May 14 and 15. It's going to be an incredible night of stories, film, and adventure cycling insights with some of the most inspiring guests from the podcast. Tickets are available now, but they're not going to last. So head to the link in the show notes, grab yours, come to one night, or if you're a super fan, come to both. Grab your ticket before they're gone, and I hope to see you there. Before you go,